What if the secret to healthy aging wasn't found in a bottle, a workout plan, or a trendy diet, but in the simple wisdom of our grandmothers? My Finnish grandmother was born in 1906. She lived through war, loss, and immense changes. Yet she aged with grace, purpose, and quiet strength that I admire more than ever. As a grandmother now myself, I see her wisdom in a whole new light. And today I'm sharing with you 8 lessons from her life that can help us all age well. Number 1 is keep moving. My grandmother never drove, and she lived in Finland all her life except for a few years that she lived here in Canada with us. It is traditionally more of a walkable city. People take trams, trains, buses, and the accessibility and the system is really built well there. But when my grandmother moved here to Canada to live with us, one of the things I remember is that we would walk forever. We'd go for these long walks. We lived in an area that the transportation wasn't very accessible, especially if you didn't drive. So she would take me and my sister on these long walks, and we'd be walking through town, I remember going through fields and meadows and picking long stems of grass, and she'd be telling us stories. But she was not one to sit still. She was always going. And that is something that now there is such research behind the importance of continuous and continuing to move as we age. It doesn't mean that you have to have a gym membership or fancy equipment. It just means that you need to keep your body moving. We have research to back this up now. What kept her going till her final days was the fact that she didn't stop moving. She would climb stairs. In her old apartment, which was a very old, as in that it was built, decades and decades earlier, they didn't have working elevator, so she would climb, I think it was maybe 4 or 5 flights of stairs to her place. So that's the thing, that if we don't use it, we will lose it. Number 2, stay flexible, stretch often. Another fun memory we have of our grandmother is she would get down on the floor and start stretching, and me and my sister would join her, and we'd just giggle and laugh, and she'd tell us stories. She was standing up and doing all these movements, and later on my sister and I realized that, my gosh, she was doing some of the Pilates moves that we were learning in our classes. Not only did she keep her body moving, but she also stayed flexible, and she made it a part of her day to do that. And sure, for us as kids, we just loved it. It was fun. And she really embraced the Nordic approach to moving your body and wellness, and that is working with your body, not against it. Number 3 is step out of your comfort zone. Despite living on a limited income, she was able to save her money and she would travel. She was living in Finland. We moved to Canada, and she would come here every year, if not twice a year, to visit us. And at one point she came and lived with us for, I think, 3 years. She didn't speak English, she spoke Finnish, and she was not afraid to go on these adventures all by herself. And a lot of times, because we are in Canada, her flights would land in the United States and she'd have to transfer, or we'd pick her up over there. That's so important, to keep your mind active and embrace challenges. Trying new things like that keeps us mentally energized and vibrant. Whether it's learning a new skill or just embracing the fact that you're going to embark on something new, and it will be a challenge, but you're going to accept it and do it. It helps with your ability to stay healthy mentally, and also it keeps you motivated and creates that sense of excitement and anticipation that sometimes we lose as we get older, and we lose the excitement of things to look forward to. Number 4 is continue to learn. My grandmother loved to try to learn Finnish, and she would have me and my sister sitting with her, and we would love giving her English lessons. And it was one of the most fun times that we had, speaking with her and getting her to say things. As kids, we just thought it was fun, but for her, it was also a learning experience. She never let it stop her that she couldn't speak English. When we went out for our walks, a lot of times we would stop at a store along the way, and she'd go in and she'd make some purchases, and she managed just fine with no English. And of course, we were there to help guide her and help her with that. But that's the thing. Learning does not stop when you hit 50, 60, 70, or even 80. You can continue to learn all your life. Number 5 is giving back and helping others. My grandmother was born in 1906, and then she was married, and during the war she had my dad in 1943. So she would tell us stories about, how it was during those years living and running into the bomb shelters in Helsinki. And I realized just as I was putting these notes together for this video that I was old enough at that point to understand and listen to my grandmother's stories. But I realized that my sisters, because I'm the oldest of 5, my sisters and brother, they didn't get that experience. She got a lot older and she passed away in 1990. Those stories I only have in my memory, because at that time when she was telling me those stories, that was 1970s, 1980s, 1990s already. We were starting to get some kind of technology, but if she had been around right now, I could have been videotaping her on my phone or a camera and really documenting all these stories. But all I really have is photographs of her. And I've dug out all my albums where I have old pictures that I love to look at from her when she was a young girl, when she was a new wife, when she was a young mom, and then her pictures of her when she was with us. We do have a few of those film rolls that my dad had, but that was already in the late 1960s, early 1970s. And there's a little bit of film with my grandmother on there. But it's just the memories I have and the stories she told me. When she was married, she was a tailor, and she was really, really good at sewing and all kinds of things like knitting and crocheting. She lost my grandfather after the war, so my dad was raised alone and she was a single mom. And she was helped a lot by the Salvation Army. And one of the things that my grandmother did is she never forgot that. She always helped them out, whether it was cooking in the kitchen or sewing items for the markets that they would have when they would sell things to raise money. She was always sewing and knitting things. And I didn't realize it at the time, because I always thought, she's always busy knitting or crocheting. But I realized she always had a project that she was doing, because she was putting those things together to donate and give to the Salvation Army for them to sell to get money. She never forgot the help that she received from them during the war and post-war years. My grandmother was, like I said, on a very limited pension, but she was always giving back. Giving doesn't have to be a grand gesture. It can be something simple as some of your time, or as in my grandmother's case, she had an ability and she used that to sew and knit and provide things and to donate them for the Salvation Army to sell to earn money from that. Having a community or something like that gives you a sense of purpose and fulfillment, and that's something greatly needed as we get older. Number 6, you can pray anywhere. When my grandmother visited or was living with us, a lot of times she ended up looking after us. My mom and dad worked, but I was brought up in a very strict religious Christian household with my mom. She was always going to meetings, church meetings, different meetings. And she really took advantage of the fact that when my grandmother was around, she went. We talked about these things with my grandmother, and she, even though she belonged to the Salvation Army and she really believed in what they did and she helped them out, she had no need to always be scheduled to have to go to a meeting or to be scheduled to that she has to be there, that it did not affect her values and her sense of religion. She knew that she could pray or do all those things anywhere. It didn't have to be at a service that maybe she couldn't attend. She didn't have that need that she had to always attend, unlike my mom. And my mom was very rigid in that approach, and I think that affected some of her kids, including me. And me and my sister found my grandmother's way really calming. And it was nice to see the difference in how you can, practice your religion. So basically what I got out of that is that spirituality does not have to be connected to a specific place. Finding those moments of reflection, meditation, and prayer can be anywhere. And these, of course, can bring clarity at any stage in your life. Number 7 is be thrifty but not cheap. And like I've said so many times, is that my grandmother lived on a very small pension, but she always sent me and my sister and my family such beautiful, thoughtful care packages. I can't imagine what it cost her to send those things over. And they took a long time back then because she would obviously look for the cheapest route, and that would be by ship. She really found joy in sharing what she had, whether it was knitting or sewing for us, finding unique things that she thought we could use, or baking and cooking when she was with us. She really loved to share and give what she had. And she always seemed to have so much. Being resourceful, whether it's financially, doesn't have to seem stingy. And it also doesn't mean that you have to deprive yourself. It's really about focusing on what truly matters to you, living simply and being mindful of spending and prioritizing meaningful experiences over material things can really bring more abundance to our lives. This is a deeply Nordic approach, valuing quality over excess. If you like the idea of learning timeless wellness tips, then hit the like button, because then that'll show me that you want me to create more videos like this. Number 8 is keep connections that matter. Even though distance and circumstances could have made things difficult, my grandmother prioritized staying connected to the people that she loved. Whether it was saving her pennies to come visit us in Canada, or visiting her sisters out in, further away. And she had sisters, and they used to have sleepovers because a lot of them had become widowed, and they would take turns going to each other's homes and spending the night and spending time and probably several days together. I always think about that because I don't do it as often, but me and my sister, my younger sister that I'm closest to in age, we do that too. We'd have sleepovers, and it's so much fun. And my grandmother did that till the very end. Actually, that's kind of sad how she passed away, but she was spending the night at one of her sisters, and she had to go home for whatever reason, maybe get some other things, or she had an appointment. But in that time in 1988, 89, she didn't even have a phone in her house. Like, I'm talking, she lived on a small pension, and she didn't spend money on things she didn't have. There was no phone at one point. She ended up having a stroke and not being found for at least 24 hours. My grandmother's sister thought, oh, she's changed her mind, she's not coming back. Ended up being hospitalized until she passed away. Maintaining meaningful relationships does help with the healthy aging. And obviously, it's something that really helps with happiness as you age. And it does not have to mean having large social circles, nothing like that. But it's those relationships that really mean a lot to you, that you want to maintain and grow and care for. And the bonus tip is laughter is a must. My grandmother and us, we would laugh and laugh and laugh. She would tell us stories that were really sad, but she'd also tell us really funny and happy things. And I just remember just loving spending time with her and laughing. And you may think that all grandparents are like this. They're not. This is my dad's mom. My mother's side, though, we didn't have this connection. And I don't know how I was afforded this beautiful relationship with my dad's mom, but I'm so blessed, and so is my sister, that we had this opportunity, because those stories, those memories will never go away. And now I understand why my mom, towards the end of her life, would always talk about her one special grandmother. Like she talked about her like a little girl would. I think as we age, we get more nostalgic and more aware, and realize how important these relationships are to us and have been to us. I think about this all the time now with my grandson. I really realize the impact it must have had on my grandmother when we all moved to Canada and left her there. She had her own siblings and other people, and nephews and nieces, but she didn't have us anymore. She was very close to us. My grandmother had been through a lot in her life, but she still found such joy and laughter. Laughter truly is medicine. Finding humor in things, taking things not too seriously, being playful can truly make us feel younger at heart. My Finnish grandmother didn't have access to fancy health trends or self-help books, yet she lived a life full of vitality, love, and wisdom. And maybe that's the real secret: staying curious, staying connected, and finding joy in every day. Which of these lessons resonates with you the most? Or is there a piece of wisdom from a loved one that's changed your approach to aging? I'd love to hear, so share in the comments. Because you might not have a grandmother like this, but you could have some other special person in your life that has taught you a lot. Here's to embracing life at every age, just like my grandmother taught me. Kiitos, mumma. Bye. I'll see you in the next video.